How you doing, YouTube? This is Stash coming at you with a vlog. It's been a little while. Hope you've found my other vlogs interesting. Of course, they're kind of random and disorganized, but anyway, tonight I want to talk about the untimely death of Washington insider Gus Weiss. This is a good story. This is what I talk about here on the Stash vlog. Stuff that you're not supposed to talk about. So Gus Weiss was a Washington insider, kind of a Mycroft Holmes guy. That was the genius brother of Sherlock Holmes that did favors for the British government. He was kind of like that for the Americans. He was a super genius. Worked on all kinds of things. A lot of stuff was said to have been classified. He had allegedly had a huge part in ending the Cold War with Russia, or the first Cold War, because we're in phase 2, or Cold War again, unfortunately. There was a KGB guy named Vladimir Vetrov on their side who was part of a Directorate T that was in charge of procuring high technology, in particular from the Americans. Directorate T, not only that, Line X, Directorate T, Line X, that was Vetrov. He turned from the Soviets and started working for the Americans and revealed that there was this huge team, Directorate T, was trying to procure stuff banned under the Commerce Department, classified stuff, and tons of it. So rather than just arrest all of the Directorate T and Line X and the KGB, the Gus Weiss, being a genius, decided to basically give them what they want, and Reagan was keen on it. He had given the orders to unleash the agency and wipe out the Soviets. At least that's what his main idea was. Mr. Gorbachev, tear that wall down. Weiss, American patriot, genius, decided to again give the Soviets what they want, so they sabotaged and bugged the technology. I think this story is a lot wider than that, and even beyond some things that he did, but this is how it's been revealed to the public about Weiss. So actually, there's an Air Force colonel that did a book on it called At the Abyss, I believe, and there was a chapter in it where the Americans were monitoring and they got kind of spooked because a gigantic explosion happened at a Siberian pipeline, and it was allegedly the largest non-nuclear explosion in the history of explosions. Of course, Scope says this might not be true or isn't true, and the Russians said it didn't happen at all. I think it happened. I hate that Scopes thing. I think they're a bunch of assholes. But I think the story is probably way more deeper, a lot better than it came out. Nevertheless, that put pressure, and eventually the Soviet Union changed or collapsed, whatever word you want to use. The wall came down. Weiss was into that kind of thing. Now, perhaps even more interesting is the fact that he, as a Mycroft Holmes secret government genius, wasn't keen on the idea of reinvading and occupying the country of Iraq in 2003. I don't know how he felt about the original one, where some people say that Ambassador Gillespie kind of gave said she had no problem with Saddam going into Kuwait, and the story about the incubators and babies, and it was a load of crap, and that was sketchy. Well, weapons of mass destruction, we now know, are those enough who are cynical enough to know that that was completely bogus. There were no weapons of mass destruction. It's cost trillions of dollars, and we've invaded Iraq. Gus Weiss, American patriot, was against this idea. Now, he had an apartment in the infamous, or very nice, depending how you look at it, Watergate condo apartment, and they found him there dead. So he allegedly jumped. I don't think he had any close family members. I've read the obituaries, but there's nothing really that conclusive, except he went to Vanderbilt University. I believe he was from Tennessee. I think he was a Jewish guy, Jewish American patriot guy. That's, that type of stuff was, kind of pedestrian. And there hasn't been much written about it except in the book about the Farewell Dossier. Farewell was the code name of Vetrov, I believe, the spy who turned to the Americans. There is an interesting movie that's really worth it called the Farewell Dossier. It's from France, and it was, I don't know if it was a hit in Europe. I don't think it was very well publicized over here, maybe deliberately. This was seen as a wonderful victory within the Reagan administration, starring none other than Fred Ward from Remo Williams. Fred Ward, always good actor. Remo wasn't even his best. Well, yeah, it might have been. He plays a lucid Ronald Reagan in that movie, which is worth considering since this is high-level stuff. More like, in the States, it's like GOP insiders and stuff like that. The DNC maybe wasn't even very keen on it, because I think they probably liked the Soviet Union in some aspects. Some aspects, not all. So so if you were a GOP insider, you really dug this story. Vladimir Vetrov, traitor to Russia or a great hero, you decide. Great hero to the United States certainly was Gus Weiss, or as it is pointed out by New York Times writer Tim Weiner, who writes a lot about the intelligence community, said that this blowing up of that pipeline was, if the tables return, I think he said, quote unquote, or an American official said, it could have been looked at as terrorism, really dangerous. I mean, they put these malware or chipping or whatnot into the Soviet equipment, and the pipeline blew. So huge explosion. I don't know if the Russians said anybody got killed, but they were competing, and the U.S., which was allegedly ahead in certain kinds of sophisticated technology and software and stuff like that. And Weiss picked up on that. He was a flyer. He had a club. There's a book written about, the name escapes me, but it's about obsolescent technology. And there's a chapter on Weiss, and said, well, maybe he felt bad when he worked on the Cold War, and he had some kind of skin disorder, and he took his own life. I don't buy it really that much. I don't buy the Vince Foster thing either, and I don't buy Seth Rich, who was a Bernie Sanders fan, and he had some dirt on Hillary. That's another subject. But that reminds me of the Gus Weiss thing. So jumps, and they found him on the sidewalk below his Watergate apartment, and he had skin disease and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah, so that's a fascinating movie, Farewell Dossier. I might be talking about that subject another time. But Gus Weiss, let me know what you think about this. That goes to show how serious the so-called neocons were about going into Iraq. I think that I am hoping that Mr. Trump, being a businessman, seeing that Iraq is a bad deal, gets our guys and ladies out of there, and I don't know, maybe deploy them on the border to Mexico or something, in a peaceful way, rather than occupying Iraq. It's cost a lot of blood and treasure, and we should consider that a man of Gus Weiss's intelligence wasn't too keen on reinvading and occupying Iraq, despite the green zone probably being a cool place to be sometimes. We invaded. Anyway, that's the end of tonight's vlog. As always, I bring up rare, obscure topics. I think tomorrow night I'm going to be going over the strange similarity in David Lynch's Part 2, the atomic attack scene, to the writings about atomic weapons and the occult in Kenneth Grant's works. Always weird, always only a few viewers, because that's how I do it. I only like to talk about really rare, weird stuff that you're not supposed to talk about, because what else is there in my book? Hope you're doing good. God bless. Give me some comments about Gus Weiss. If you're from his family or whatever, let me know. Say hi. God bless you guys, and peace, everyone. Take care.